Joining us now, you've probably seen her all throughout the Metro Detroit area performing at a number of different music venues. It's Jill Jack, local musician, with us now on the Megacast. Jill, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So you grew up locally. Your background, you grew up in Huntington Woods, what drew you to music, and how did your music career develop right here in our community?
Well, actually, we always had music. It sounds cliche, but there was music in our house for sure. I grew up with a family of 5 kids, and my mom always had music on. And we used to, pretend and act and do these little plays and things like that. And then in grade school, started in a church group. All my sisters, we each got a guitar when we were 9, whether we wanted one or not. And my mom's rule said we had to each teach each other at least a couple chords. So then we played in church, and kind of in high school, I put it aside. And I think, at least I thought every kid would want to be in a band. And I used to pretend all the time. But then in my 20s, it became reality when I dropped out of nursing school and started singing in clubs. And it just went from one thing to another. And I started writing my own material. And well, here I am 12 albums later, and, it's been an incredible ride. I've had an incredible career.
So you mentioned taking a little bit of a break from music when you were in high school, but ultimately you were drawn back to it. You write your own music. When did you get back into music more regularly? When did you start writing your own material?
So when I dropped out of college, I ended up, actually, I was at a bar with a friend of mine, and the singer came up and was flirting with her and said, "What song would you like to hear?" And she said, "Well, I like to hear this song, but I want her to sing it." And that got me on stage, and it was just a passion right then and there. I realized I did have a calling for this, and I joined quite a few bands as a backup singer. But then I realized I kind of started closet writing. I always wrote journals. I wrote poetry as a kid, but I started considering myself seriously in my 20s and stepped out on my own. And when I did that, everything blossomed, and it seemed like doors started to open. It's hard work. It's very hard work to keep a band together for 25 years, to do your own albums, to be your own marketing person, your own manager, and everything else. But it was such a huge passion for me that I couldn't imagine it any other way.
We're joined by musician Jill Jack today on the Megacast. You can find more information about everywhere that we broadcast and view all of our interviews on demand by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. And so for you, being that you write your own material, you perform it as well, the creative process is different for every musician, for every artist of every kind. For you, in the writing process of your music, where does it start, and what's the general timeline of how a song comes together from the onset of an idea that you have to a full song that's ready and complete?
Well, my favorite is when I get a quick idea, I sit down, I write it, it's over in 10 minutes. That's my favorite way. And usually those are my strongest songs. I can't say I don't spend a lot of time on a song developing it, but what happens is you can't get in the way of it. This is what I always tell up-and-coming writers. Let it flow through, even if it doesn't make sense. If they don't get it, watch the Beatles documentary right now. You can see how the process works. Everyone's different, though. There's some artists who will sit and write for years on one song. I can't do that. It would never be done. I have to finish my song. So if an idea comes up, sometimes it might just be, one time it was a ding of a computer bell, and it stimulated an entire song. Other times it's something someone says and I write that down, or I read something in a book that just a line of some sentence you just have to stay totally open as an artist for the signs and for ideas. And literally, I told people you could write a song about any word, anything, and just, make a song out of it. It's not easy. I won't say it's easy, but, and I also play guitar, so I accompany myself that way as well.
So you have described your music as quote unquote Americana. What does that mean to you? Because that's got a pretty broad definition in all forms of art and all forms of life. But in music, and for you specifically, Jill, what does Americana mean in the context of your art?
So Americana drives a lot of the industry, the music industry, crazy because it is wide range. But that's who I am. And the minute Americana came out, it started being okay to use that. It actually fits what I do. So I have had the pleasure of opening for Loretta Lynn. I've also had the pleasure of opening for Bob Seger. I've also had the pleasure of working with folk artists, blues artists, jazz artists. I write all over the spectrum. Somewhere in the history of music, we had to be defined. And that didn't work well for me because songs came out of me. I didn't want to just write one thing. I didn't want to change my song to fit a genre. And the good thing about it is when you have audience members and they're like, oh, I heard your country. And I'm like, well, that song might be country, but stick around. I got a blues song for you in 10 minutes. And so with the audience, it's kind of like you please everyone. And I really enjoy having that freedom.
We're joined by Jill Jack, local musician, today on the Megacast. And so the COVID-19 pandemic affected different artists, especially musicians, in many different ways. For you, how did the COVID-19 pandemic not only affect the ways that you were able to perform and able to continue your career, but also your approach to your art after all the shutdowns and while we're still continuing in the COVID-19 pandemic?
That was probably the hardest part of my life. I'm so used to, my life was always full-fledged, running like crazy, booked everywhere. We had incredible 2019 year. We were all set with a full calendar. I didn't realize how much I run until the pandemic pulled the rug from me. And a lot of people said to me, oh, well, now you'll be able to sit and write. Well, actually, it didn't work that way for me. I could not write. I wrote maybe a couple songs during the entire process. I actually went to painting. I started painting just to relieve the stress of not being able to work. But I also learned a lot about Zoom and a lot about technology, which is not my favorite thing. I realized for me that I prefer people over technology. I realized for me as an artist, what was important to me was to reach people, to have that connection. So it was very difficult to sing into my computer or my phone and see these little things on Facebook, the hand clapping and the hearts. But eventually, I got used to it. And now we're easing back in, and I'm just taking it one day at a time.
So you've been inspired by a number of different ways of giving back to your community, but also to the greater good as well, including multiple trips, missionary trips to Haiti. Can you tell us a little bit about how those trips had influenced your approach to being a part of a community and giving back to the greater society?
Well, one of the things of being an artist is that you have to talk about yourself so much. I mean, you have to promote yourself. You have to tell people you're good so that they'll come and see you. You have to do all this stuff. And I got to the point where I just hit a wall, and I was so tired of promoting myself, and I wanted to do more. And I had, you can call it whatever your belief is, but I believe God whispered in my ear and it was like, go to Haiti. And my husband's like, what? Why are you going to a third world country and do things here? Which I do a lot of nonprofit work with a lot of different charity organizations here in Michigan. But there was something that was calling me there, and I'm so glad I did. Yes, it was dangerous. No, I haven't been back in 2 years. I'm still in contact, and thank you for asking, because I have this little Haitian box that I made where I take donations during the holiday season, and have raised thousands and thousands of dollars for my Haitian friends, for my orphans that we've stayed with. It's an experience. I would recommend that anyone work with some sort of organization to give of yourself is probably the biggest gift you can give to yourself. It brings you peace. You realize what's really important in life, and it makes you feel good, and you're doing something good for people. So this is why I do it, and I will continue to. I work with also Lost Voices, which is an organization that works with women who have been affected by human trafficking. I've worked with Detroit Children's Choir. I work with a lot of different nonprofits, and it brings me joy. I think the only thing I'm lacking is time to try and get involved in everything. So, yeah, but I love it.
We're joined by Jill Jack, a musician, with us today on the Megacast, and other ways of giving back that you participate in. You have another effort you call Dream Big with Jill Jack. Tell us a little bit about that and how that helps people as well.
Well, Dream Big was it just popped in my head. And, I have a lot of people, mainly parents, that come up to me and say, my daughter or my son is interested in getting into music, and, we're being approached by all these people who want all this money. And I'm like, hold it. So I realized that I wanted to start a company that could help artists of all. It started out just musicians, but actually my first client was a nonprofit who needed help. And so I'm kind of there to, people have pegged me as a cheerleader. You come to me, you tell me your biggest dream. I tell you it's possible. I tell you can make it happen. And we figure out ways that you're standing in. A lot of people block themselves. They sabotage their opportunities because they're afraid of failure. And so, I was there as a musician. I know what it's like to be afraid to put yourself out there and be rejected and think that your dream could be, ruined. But so I really, really have fun with it. And I have a range of clients from 12 years old to 78 years old. I have a 70-some-year-old woman who wanted to record a song that she wrote 50 years ago, and it's actually on Spotify now, and her grandkids get to listen to it. So it's really fun for me to observe someone and realize it's kind of like a puzzle. What are they missing? What do they need? And how can I help them?
We're joined by Jill Jack, local musician, joining us today on the Megacast, and is also currently holding her Jill Jack Celebrates the Holidays Tour 2021. Tell us a little bit about what people can expect if they attend one of your concerts on the tour.
Well, it is going to be so fun. And I think right now, it's kind of, it's difficult as an artist to, promote your shows where we've got so much going on in Michigan right now, as far as the sadness and of the shootings that just happened. But I think my role is to lift people. And I've always told my audience, okay, look around, close your eyes, realize for the next 2 hours, we're going to be in a private little bubble and just feeling peace and joy and fun and happiness. I want to bring joy to people, and we're going to be doing twists of Christmas carols. And I know some people are like, oh my God, I'm so over Christmas songs. But no, we put a really fun twist to each song. And I know, obviously, we've been doing it now for over 10 years, I think, and maybe even longer. And everybody leaves uplifted, and that's my job. That's what I got to do. So I'm excited for it.
Well, Jill, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, telling us a lot about your music career, giving some advice to other musicians who may be looking to further their passion or further engage with their passion, and telling us, of course, about your tour as well.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.